Hello everyone, I'm Batman, about who dances at 3 a.m. Welcome to another episode from the viewer scenario playlist where I take your ideas and turn them into Unity mechanics. This idea is actually from our dear friend with this ID who said, "Hello Batman, hello my dear friend, I want to make my own game. It is actually very amazing, I'm so happy for you, but I don't know how to make such a mechanic. The dialogue starts once and after it, a canister appears and it must be used." So in this video, we kind of built something like that using a custom interaction system, a simple dialogue system and a tiny inventory system, all working together to bring this scenario to life. It could actually be super useful for your own project, especially if you're making something story driven or horror based, because this is very closer to how real gameplay flows. And honestly, I ended up using most of these same systems in my own game Fractured Psyche, which you can actually download with the link in the description. All of I used and created in this video will be linked in my GitHub. You can get to it with the link in the description also. With all that being said, let's put on the mask and begin. First, let's again see our friend's comment. So our friend said, "Hello Batman, hello my friend. I want to make my own game. That is amazing. I'm happy for you." He says, "But I don't know how to make such a mechanic. The dialogue starts once. So the dialogue, we need to create a new dialogue system. But what actually starts the dialogue system? Maybe an interaction with the Batman. For example, I have Batman here. We need an interaction. Then we want the canister to happen. We're going to do it inside an enumerator, and we're going to create a very simple and small inventory system that we can actually put our canister into and maybe use it later. I have a model for Batman that we can talk to for the dialogue system. Then I have a canister, a fuel canister that we can take and put in our inventory system. Not Batman, this one is Batman. I'm Batman, we're different, kind of. So it has an idle animation. But first thing first, let me create the dialogue, the dialogue box. I'm actually using the FPS controller from the Unity standard assets, very simple Unity standard assets, and I'm actually using Cinemachine on top of it. If you don't know how to set this up, I actually have a video on that. You can click on top of your screen right now or get to the link in the description. Let's right click here, create a UI canvas. I'm going to put it on, scale with the screen size. I'm going to give my screen resolution. Mine is 1920 by 1080. Put this one at 0.5. Then create a UI panel. Go to scene view, click on this 2D, press F to go to your panel, zoom out a little bit. I'm going to anchor it. So with your panel selected, go to your inspector tab and anchor it to the lower side of the screen. When you scale it, it actually scales according to the bottom of the screen and not, according to the whole screen. And I'm gonna, make it smaller, maybe like this, maybe a little bit smaller, and make it like black. I want it to have a background, this is okay. Then I'm gonna use a UI text inside it. So UI, I'm gonna use a legacy text. I'm gonna, again, anchor to the lower side of the screen. I'm gonna hold Alt to also set its position to the lower side of the screen. I'm gonna make it white. I'm gonna give it like 25. And I'm gonna put it like, you're gonna press T to go is transform to make it like this. If it doesn't move, just press Z and it will just move, I'm gonna zoom in. I'm going to scale it on this way and scale it on both sides. If you want to scale on both sides, you got to hold Alt and that's it. I'm going to put it at half and center maybe. And this is our simple dialog box. We can write on this. I'm going to make it bold. I'm going to make it 30. So let's go ahead and create the interaction system. And inside that interaction script, I'm going to actually create the dialog system. So let's go to the scripts, create a new C# script. I'm going to call it viewer scenario interaction system video 3. Double click to open it up. You can name your script anything you want. This is my script's name. Inside the script, because we want to use a text in here and give it that typing letter by letter effect, we need a reference to a text file. So to be able to get a text file in your script, you're gonna add using Unity engine.ui. For the interaction system, like the previous videos, I'm gonna make it private. We need a private boolean, which is can interact, which would actually check if we can interact or not. By default, we can interact. And for the dialogue, we need three things. The first thing we need is a public text that we're gonna write on. I'm gonna name it subtext. Then we need a private string called holder, which is gonna hold our sentence that we're gonna write on the subtext. Then we need a private float. It's called time. I'm going to put it at 0.025f seconds. The speed between writing each letters of the sentence you put into, which you'll see in the upcoming minutes, no worries. So let's go ahead and create the interaction system. In the interaction system, as I said, we created a boolean to check if we can interact or not. So we're just going to say if can interact is equal to true. If you can actually interact, we go ahead and interact. We're going to create a new ray. Ray is something invisible, which will be shot. Let me just create it first. Camera.main.screen point to ray, new vector 3, 0.5f, 0.5f, and 0. So it's gonna shoot an invisible thing in the direction that the camera is looking at. And the thing it's gonna hit is called raycast hit. I'm gonna call it hit 1. So an invisible ray will be shot in the way we're looking at, and if it actually hits something, it's gonna be called hit 1. Down here, we're gonna check physics, that's raycast, ray 1, we're gonna give it the ray, out hit 1, and we're gonna give it the distance. We want the interact thing to actually reach. So we want anything in the distance of 5 to be interactable. So I'm just gonna give it a float here. Then inside it, we're gonna check if we actually hit Batman or we actually hit, you know, the fuel canister. So to be actually be able to check it, so I'm gonna give it a collider that we can interact with. So to be able to interact with it, it actually needs to have a collider. I'm gonna give it a box collider, a very simple collider, and I'm gonna change its values. You can click on this edit collider, select the fuel canister as well, and I'm gonna give it the box collider as well. I'm gonna make this box collider a little bit bigger so we can interact with it better. These need to have a tag, so I'm gonna select my jerry can. I'm gonna go to this tag section, add tag, click on this plus. I'm gonna add a tag of canister. For the fuel canister, I gave it the tag, and I'm gonna select Batman, the object with the box collider, go to the tag section, add a tag, click on this plus, I'm gonna call Batman. The small and the capital version of the letters matter, so be careful. So I'm gonna add the Batman, and be careful, it's not given yet, so select your Batman again, and go to this tag section, give the Batman again. Now Jerrycan has a tag of canister, and Batman has a tag of Batman. I'm sorry, I'm trying to, you know, speak a little bit slower when I'm explaining things, because one of our dear friend actually said I'm actually talking maybe too fast. So I said I'll, you know, talk slower when I'm explaining things. We're gonna go inside our script again. We're just gonna say if hit 1, as I told you, hit 1 is the thing we hit with array dot collider. We're gonna go into this collider dot compare tag. If it actually has a tag of Batman, as I said, the capital and the small versions of the letter matter here. It actually needs to be the same as the tag you created. If we actually hit a Batman, we're gonna do this. Then we just say else if hit 1.collider.compare tag. If we actually hit something with a tag of canister. Else if we hit anything else. For the interaction system, I want an interaction text to appear here in the center of the screen. For example, when I look at Batman, it's gonna say talk with him. And if I look at the fuel canister, it's gonna say take the fuel canister. I'm gonna rename my text to subtext. This text is subtext. I'm gonna name it subtext. And I'm gonna duplicate it. So I'm gonna select it. Go to this 2D, right click, duplicate, or select, hold control, press D. It is duplicated now. I'm gonna anchor it to the center of the screen. I'm gonna hold Alt, so the position is also the same. So right now it is in the center of the screen. I don't want it to be this big, I want it to be like this. I'm gonna say it can overflow in the horizontal direction. It is like when I type this, it goes down, but if I say overflow, it goes that way. So I'm just gonna say, for example, say take fuel canister. I'm gonna make it like reddish. This one is interaction text. And I'm going to rename it to interaction text. Now we have an interaction text. We need to reference it in here. So we just need a public text. I'm going to say interaction text. And when we look at Batman, we want our interaction text to say talk to Batman. And when we're looking at the fuel canister, we're just going to say interact text, the text, take fuel canister. If we look at anything else, we want our interaction text to be empty. And to fix some bugs, we're gonna say if we actually hit nothing, so when we look at the sky, we're just gonna say else. If we look at the sky, for example, we want our interaction text to be empty again. That is a very simple interaction system. I want the interaction button to be the left mouse click. So when I look at Batman and I press the left mouse click, we're going to talk with the Batman. So right here, we're just going to say, if we press the left mouse key, so to do that, we're just going to say if input.get mouse button down 0, as you see. When I press left mouse key on Batman, we go ahead and say talk with Batman. So we're going to create a function for that, and we can just copy it and paste it here. But instead of saying talk with Batman, we can say take fuel canister. First, let's create the dialogue system with the Batman. I'm gonna add a lot of details in here, and I'll explain every detail. It might be a long video. I'll try to explain everything in here, so when you guys create something similar, you know what to do. This is the method I used in my own game. Now to create the dialogue system and the function to talk with the Batman and being able to take the canister, I'm gonna do it inside an IEnumerator, which will actually let me wait for a certain time and then do an action. For example, I'm gonna wait until the dialogue finishes. Then I have the ability to take the fuel canister. I'm gonna close the void update. I'm gonna go down a void update. I'm gonna say IEnumerator. I'm gonna call it talk with Batman. CO, which stands for coroutine. It's gonna give an error, no worries. When you return a value, it will be fixed in the upcoming minutes, no worries. When I look at Batman and I press the left mouse key, I wanna say start coroutine, talk with Batman CO. And you have to put the parentheses here. When I look at Batman and I press the left mouse key, I go ahead and talk with Batman. And the first thing you gotta do inside this enumerator, as you see it says one reference because we referenced it here. So the first thing you have to do is make can interact equal to false. So when we are talking with Batman, we don't want to talk with him again. It's gonna stop bugs from happening. So can interact is equal to false. We go ahead and talk with Batman. So let's create the dialogue system. First thing first, we need to activate the talk panel. So we need to reference it here. Public game object talk panel, which is deactivated by default. This is the talk panel, which is deactivated by default. So I can actually take it. So we have a talk panel here. First thing first, we activate the talk panel. Talk panel that set active equal to true. So we activate the talk panel. Then we go ahead and write on the dialog text. So subtext.text needs to be empty at the start. Or if we are talking with the player, for example, we are talking with Batman first, we're just gonna say me. So this will be there by default, and then it's gonna write our sentence one by one. So holder is the string that is gonna hold our text. For example, when we interact with Batman, we're just gonna say hello Batman. Then we go ahead and write it letter by letter. So I'm just gonna say for each character called C in holder. So for each character inside this sentence, each character means H, then E, then L, then O, and anything else. For each character in here, we're gonna write it one by one. So we're just gonna say subtext.text plus equals C. By default, it is written me, a space here for the sentence to be written. Then it's gonna add it letter by letter. So H first, so it's gonna be me, H, then it comes inside and says E, L, O, and more on. So I don't want to write it, very fast without any delay. I wanted to wait for some time, for example, 0.025 seconds that we created up here. Then go write the next letter. So to do that, we're just gonna say yield return new, wait for seconds, wait for the time we created. The float we created up here called time. So when I interact with Batman, it's gonna write this, and after it's done, I wanna say, for example, wait for 1 second, yield return new, wait for seconds, wait for 1 second. Then go ahead, and this time Batman will answer us, so we can just copy it, Control C and Control V here. This time Batman says hello my friend, yes I want you to take this fuel canister and use it later on. Wait for seconds, wait for 1 second, and then we can go ahead and do other stuff. And we're just gonna say sure thing, and everything is gonna end. I don't want everything to be, I don't want it to, take a lot of time because this is a test thing. Again, we're gonna wait for 1 second, then we just clear everything and reset everything. And this time we have the ability to take the fuel canister. So to reset everything, first thing first, we wanna empty our subtext. So subtext should be empty because nothing will be written on the subtext, but nobody is talking. Then we're gonna deactivate our talk panel because we are no longer talking. Set active false. We say can interact equal to true because we can interact again. These down parts, I'm gonna say booleans and conditions. We're gonna check if we can actually take the fuel canister or not. So to be able to see if we can actually take the fuel canister or not, I'm gonna add a section up here called boolean or conditions, and it's gonna be, I'm gonna create a private boolean, and it's gonna say talked with Batman, which is equal to false by default because we didn't talk with Batman at the start of the game. If we didn't talk with Batman, then we cannot take the fuel canister. If we talk with Batman, we can go ahead and take the fuel canister. To actually create those conditions, first we can go ahead inside talk with Batman. We can actually make it more beautiful, give it some extra things. So I'm gonna empty interaction text and subtext, and I'm gonna turn off the talk panel by default. I'm gonna go to my FPS control. I'm gonna select my camera. I'm gonna give this camera interaction script to my camera. It needs a interaction text. I'm gonna give it, drag and drop it. Subtext. We can click on the circle to find them. It needs a talk panel, and this is the talk panel. Sorry, instead of saying screen point array, we should say viewport point array, not screen point array. So we can go ahead and check it out now. As you see, it's a talk to Batman. Take fuel canister, talk to Batman. We look anywhere else, it's gonna disappear. So we didn't create a function for this one, but when I left click, it's gonna say hello Batman, hello my friend, yes I want you to take this fuel canister and use it later on, sure thing, and everything disappears. There's one bug, this interaction text is written here and doesn't change. So to fix that, We go here, when we say can interact is equal to false, we say interaction text, the text equal to empty. Because when we interact with Batman, we make our interaction text empty. And after talking with him, we say talked with Batman equal to true, because we talked with Batman after we talked with him. Ideally, up here, I'm gonna create a condition to make it more beautiful. I'm gonna say if we didn't talk with Batman, we go ahead and talk with him, surely. But if we actually talked with him, this time, he's gonna maybe tell us, take the fuel canister and go, do something else. What to do? When we press the left mouse and we're looking at Batman, we go ahead and check a condition. We're just gonna say if talked with Batman is equal to false. We go ahead and do this, talk with Batman. Else if talked with Batman is equal to true. If we actually talked with Batman, we go ahead and say Batman talks, and we create the function for it. So to create the function for it, I'm going to create another enumerator down here. I'm going to call it Batman talks co, which stands for coroutine. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to name it this. So at the start, like before, we say can interact is equal to false. We make our interaction text empty to reset everything. Then we go ahead and create a dialog system. So subtext, the text equal to empty. Maybe Batman says this, and our sentence I want him to say. And our function for each char called C inside our sentence called holder. We go ahead and say subtext, the text plus equals C. And we're gonna wait for the time amount. And after we talked, we're just gonna say yield return new, wait for example, 1.5f seconds. Then we're gonna reset everything. So can interact, true, subtext, the text, empty, and everything like that. But before talking, we should activate our talk panel as well. So talk panel true. After talking, talk panel false. So we're just gonna say start coroutine Batman talks co. So if we didn't talk with him, we go ahead and use the dialogue system. And if we actually talked with him, he's gonna tell us, go ahead, we don't have much time. This was for the Batman section. Let's go to the take fuel canister section. I'm gonna kind of do the same beautiful thing in here to add more details. So if we actually didn't talk with Batman, so let me explain it first. We cannot take the fuel canister before talking to Batman. You agree with me there, right? So we're gonna check if we actually didn't talk with Batman, our player is gonna say, I don't need the fuel canister at the moment. But if we talk with Batman and we look at the fuel canister and we interact with it, we go ahead and take it and put it in our inventory system. Making that is actually very easy. If talked with Batman is equal to false. If we didn't talk with Batman, we go ahead and say can't take. Else if talked with Batman, true. If we talk with Batman, we go ahead and take. We need to create two different functions for each one. We're just gonna say enumerator can't take FC CO. FC is fuel canister, not FIFA. So I'm gonna create the function for it. Everything is the same like before up here. Can interact is equal to false because we can no longer interact. Our interaction text needs to be empty. Then we activate the talk panel. Talk panel dot set active true. We say subtext dot text. For example, we say I'm not gonna put me in here. Holder, we're gonna say I don't, and I'm gonna kind of create the same thing. So for each character called C in holder, subtext plus equal T, it's gonna wait for the time amount. And it's gonna wait yield return new, wait for seconds, wait for 1.5f seconds. Then it's gonna reset everything. So can interact, true, subtext empty, and our talk panel is to be set off. So that is for the function that we cannot take the fuel canister. So start coroutine can take FC CO, and that is it. Now we need to create the function for taking the fuel canister. But before taking the fuel canister, we need to create an inventory system, a very simple inventory system, put our fuel canister into. So I'm going to create a new C# script. I'm going to call it inventory viewer scenario video 3. Double click to open it up. We actually don't need void start and void update. I'm going to just create a public boolean. I'm going to call it have fuel canister. which is equal to false by default because we don't have it by default in our inventory system. And the only thing we have to do is we need a reference to our inventory view scenario video 3 script, and we access its have fuel canister and we make it true. So when it is true, we actually have it in our inventory system, and if it is false, we don't have it in our inventory system. When we interact with the fuel canister and we take it, we want it to disappear. So for it to disappear, we need to select it and just turn it off. So to do that, we need a reference to it. So down here, I need a public game object. I'm gonna call it fuel canister underline GO, which stands for game object. And inside take, I'm gonna go ahead and create a new enumerator. I'm gonna call it take FC CO. This time instead of can't take, we say take. So everything is the same. Can interact, false. Our interaction text, the text needs to be empty. So we just say fuel canister GO.setActive false. We deactivate it so it is no longer there to be interacted with or anything. We go ahead and take a reference from this script and we make this one true. So to do that, we need a reference to our script. Up here, I'm just gonna say public, give your script name, inventory script name. So inventory viewer scenario v3. So I'm just gonna say inventory script. You can name it whatever you want. I'm gonna go down here. I'm gonna say script dot have fuel canister equal to true. We didn't have to do it inside an enumerator, but I did it inside an enumerator. And for it to don't have this error, just gonna say yield return null. So it actually returns a null value. You can actually do it inside a void. You just call the function here. So start coroutine take fcco. We can go ahead and check this amount of parts we created, and then I'll show you how you can use it later on in your game. I'm gonna go to my script. It needs an inventory viewer scenario script. I'm gonna click on the circle. I don't have any object with it because I didn't give my script to any object. I'm gonna select my camera. I'm gonna give this inventory script to my camera. You can drag and drop it here. You can drag and drop your object here. You can click on the circle to find your object. Then it needs the fuel canister game object, which is this one. And we're done. We can go ahead and check it out. It says I don't need this at the moment. It's gonna reset. You can interact again. I don't need this at the moment. We talk with Batman. It says, do you have anything for me to do? Sure thing. It ends. We can take the fuel canister. We can talk with Batman again, and it says, go ahead. We don't have much time because we actually talked with him before. And we can go ahead and say, take fuel canister. We took it, and it is actually in our inventory system. You see, it says have fuel canister is checked. Now we have it in our inventory system, and we can use it later on. For the last part, I'm gonna create a cube, a very simple cube. Yeah, I'm gonna call it for something called motor or something. I'm just gonna say engine. This cube is kind of engine, and I'm gonna go to the tag section again, go to add tag. I'm gonna add the tag of engine, save it again, give it. Now this time we're gonna go in our interaction script that we created down here. Then said if we hit anything other than, we say if we hit, else if we hit.collider.compare tag engine. If we hit the cube engine, we first check if we have the fuel canister in our hand. If we have, we go ahead and do the function. If we don't have it, we cannot do anything, of course. So we're just gonna say interaction text text equal to use maybe, and if input dot get mouse button 0, if we press the left mouse key on it, then we go ahead and check if we actually have it or we don't. So we're just gonna say if inventory script dot have fuel canister is equal to true. If we actually have the fuel canister, we go ahead and place it there. Else, if we actually don't have the fuel canister, we just don't put it there, and we say we don't have it in our inventory system. We kind of gotta do the same thing. We're gonna create two more functions for it. So enumerator use fuel canister, and an enumerator can't use fcco. Stands for coroutine. I'm gonna add the co here as well. Can't use is easier, so I say can interact false. Interaction text empty. Talk panel set active false. And then we go down here and say subtext text. We say, for example, I need something for in it, and we write it letter by letter to give it that beautiful effect of typing. So subtext text plus equals C. Yield return, no, wait for some time. Then we wait for yield return new, wait for seconds, wait for 0.5f seconds. Then we go ahead and we reset everything. Resetting is kind of the same thing. So can interact, true. We can interact again. Then subtext needs to be empty. And our talk panel should be false. Here our talk panel should be true. Down here it should be false. So this is the function for cannot using the fuel canister. So if we don't have it, we just say start coroutine can't use fuel canister CO. And if we actually have it, we go ahead and use it. For using it, you can create different functions, but I'm just gonna say debug.log used, for example, debug.log used fuel canister. Debug.log is something that actually writes it down here, where this thing is kind of given an error. And we don't need this function for it, so we just remove this function. If you want to add a function, you're just gonna do the same thing that we did 5 times before. And that is everything we just gotta do. Everything is now done. We don't need to give any values. There's a bug before, taking the fuel canister. We don't have to make the can interact equal to false because we don't make it equal to true again after anything. So we're just gonna say can interact is equal to true. You can go ahead and check it out. It says, I need something to put in it. And it says, I don't need this at the moment. We can talk with Batman. So I want to take this fuel canister and use it later on. Sure thing. It says go ahead. We don't have much time. If we interact with it again, we take the fuel canister and it says, see, used fuel canister, debug.log and the debug. So that is how to do that scenario, my friend. I hope you enjoyed this video and you learned something in this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video as well. If you enjoyed this video, a like would be amazing. You can subscribe to see more contents like this. You can tell me anything in the comment section below, maybe suggestions or anything you want to say, maybe more scenarios. I would be very happy to answer it, and if I can, I would cover it. Thank you so much for all your support. Hope all the very best for you. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.